my gigs are with my cover band. Bar and club gigs with the occasional festival show or private party sprinkled in. Then about a year ago, I found out that a local theater group, the Muth Community Players, there'll be a link in the description below, were putting on the musical Newsies. What was more interesting is that they also use an orchestra for their music instead of just singing to a CD. I became interested in trying to get into a theater orchestra after listening to Dave Hamilton talking to his co-host Paul Kent about his experience on the podcast Gig Gab. As a side note, you should really subscribe to Gig Gab Podcast. They have a great show. I'll put links to their show in the description down below. So I did my research, made contact with the music director. I managed to land the drummer gig for the show. Not only did I get that, but I also had a small part in the show as well. So did my oldest son and daughter. The experience of working a show with your kids is great. It's a lot like being able to play on the same Little League baseball team as them. This was going to be my first orchestra experience since my freshman year of college, over years ago. I had a lot to learn, but also had pretty solid foundation to get me through. In the end, the show went great, and I had an absolute blast performing in it. Now it's a year later, and the same theater group is putting on Peter Pan. I'm again in the orchestra. I won't have a part in the show this time, but my oldest son is playing a pirate in the show. What I want to be able to do here is take you through some of the things I do to prep for the first rehearsals that will start in about a week. For a musical, the first thing I do is look for a recording of the soundtrack. Check out Spotify or YouTube and see what you can find. There could be some pitfalls to doing this that I really should cover. If you find an official soundtrack, there likely won't be any of the transition music. You know, the music that they'll play between scenes as they switch sets over and bring different characters onto stage. Another problem you can run into is one we ran into in Newsies. Before we got the score, I started learning King of New York from the soundtrack. This was the same version the choreographer was using to teach the cast their routine. It's a huge dance number. The soundtrack removed about 60 to 70 measures of music that was intended for an extended dance break. After we ran through the song once in rehearsal, the music director and vocal director noticed the issue. Because the cast already had a difficult dance routine that was mostly learned, we opted to cut those measures out. So if you can, try to find a video of the full show. This will let you hear everything in its entirety, including transitions. Now that you've found some recordings, time to take notes. This process may be more effective if you have a copy of the score already. If you don't, that's okay. Just make some general notes about what you hear that you may find helpful. If you have the charts, follow along while you listen. I'm not going to sit here and try to go through everything you should take notes on. What you do take notes on is going to be personal to your comfort level and ability. What I will say is pay attention to tricky parts that you may find challenging, areas where you need to transition to another instrument, such as bells or timpani. Now, I want to run through another issue I had when prepping and then rehearsing for Newsies. I had been listening to the soundtrack for weeks. We got the charts at our first rehearsal and we were all basically sight reading through our parts. This is not normally a huge deal. I'm decent at reading music. My problem was as we ran through the music, after listening to it for weeks, what I was hearing in my head wasn't matching what I was seeing on the sheet music. We finished the first rehearsal and I beat myself up for about 24 hours. I had a lot of doubt and was wondering what I was getting myself into. Then it hit me. The drum chart was just a road map. I needed to treat it like a jazz chart. The charts provide the framework. I just provide the grooves. Just to make sure, I spoke with the music director. I told him about my issue with the soundtrack I was listening to, and that it wasn't matching the charts. I then asked him if he wanted me to play it exactly like it was written in the charts, or if I could just treat it like a jazz chart. He told me to definitely treat it like a jazz chart, and just go for it. Once he took the handcuffs off, I was ready to dig in and have fun with the music. What should your takeaway be from all of this? If you think you have the ability, playing in an orchestra pit is, well, plain and simply a blast. I highly recommend you get involved if you have an interest. Before we wrap up, please give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you get notified when new content is posted. And of course, definitely encourage you to leave your comments and questions in the comment section down below. And remember, play with confidence and make bold mistakes.